We'll now call the meeting of the Waco City Council on May 6, 2025 to order at 3:02 p.m. Welcome to the work session of the Waco City Council, and welcome to all the people here in the Bosque Theater Gallery in beautiful downtown Waco. Thank you all for being here today. Nice little crowd on hand. And also welcome to all the viewers at home watching one of these cameras on the Waco City Cable Channel. Thank you y'all for being here as well. I'm Mayor Jim Holmes. I'm joined on the dais here today by our council members, Andrea Bearfield.
Right.
Alicia Rodriguez.
Yes.
Josh Borderud, George Chase, and Mayor Pro Tem Darius Ewing. We'll start the meeting today. Oh, and it's Darius's birthday today. So happy birthday, Darius. I'm going to start the meeting today appropriately for Darius and for all of us here with a moment of silence. Okay, the first item of business is the recognition of work session speakers. Is there anyone present today who'd like to speak on a work session agenda item? Do we have anybody, Mandy? Nobody today. With that, seeing there's no request to speak, we'll now recess the regular session and convene into work session with a report from City Manager Ford.
Thanks, Mayor. Welcome to you and the council and those in the audience and viewing online. I want to mention there's technically no changes to the agenda today. We do have two resolutions. They're numbers 302 and 319 coming off consent and will need to be voted on separately. And you've actually got special motion language at your places for resolution 319. Additionally, relative to schedule on work sessions, I'm actually going to take work sessions out of order, so you're not surprised. We're going to start with the discussion of the CIP and budget. We'll do that one first because we've got to get Blue Koslick out of here so he can go watch his daughter play Charlotte in Charlotte's Web.
All right.
So, yeah. So we're going to call that one first, so you don't be surprised, and then we'll follow the normal order after that. A couple things I wanted to highlight today. First, an employee recognition item. I want to highlight the Mayor's Summer Reading Challenge promo that launched earlier this week. Along with Mayor Holmes, our comms and library teams put a lot of work into getting ready for this year's program. We actually held a formal press conference to kick off the program, and we have some footage that we wanted to show you from that.
Oh, no. All right. Yeah, a lot of work went into this, for sure.
Oh, I love that shirt.
Yeah. 1998. Thompson.
Breaking news. Mayor Holmes is about to announce the library summer reading program.
Hi, I'm Mayor Jim Holmes. Thank you all for attending today. I'm excited to announce our summer reading program at the Waco McLennan County Library called Color Our World. Wow. This program encourages everyone to explore books that ignite creativity in you while you read any book you want. Now, can I answer any questions?
Mr. Mayor, will reading books make me an artist? An astronaut? A wizard?
Well, anything is possible.
Nice hat.
Can we win prizes?
Yeah, every 10 days you read, you automatically get a prize and a raffle ticket for more prizes.
Wow! Awesome!
Well, how about things for my family to do?
Yeah, family nights happen each week with musical performances, stuffed animal sleepovers, and more.
We're ready to start our summer reading!
Me too. That was fun. Color Our World is all about reading for this summer and little contests and all that. And some puppets in there. The puppets kind of frankly freaked me out a little bit, but they behaved themselves well. And I made it through that little PSA. That was a lot of fun. We have such a good, Monica, you and your team, and Dory and everybody back there. We've got professional grade folks doing these PSAs and getting the word out. This is an important one about summer reading when school's out. We know we want to keep kids reading, keep them educated, keep them on a program. So I'll be reading a few extra books this summer as well to try to keep up. But anyway, thanks, Bradley, for showing that.
Have we formally thrown a gauntlet down with any other local governing or elected bodies to compete in the Mayor's Summer Reading Challenge?
I don't think we've done that yet. Have we, Monica? It sounds like an idea.
I don't know.
Headlines write themselves, folks.
I'll have to pass on that one. I'll let my chairman decide.
There you go.
We'll work something out.
Very respectful.
Sounds like fun.
Well, Mayor, thanks for being such a good sport as always, on your videos, and you're getting a lot better at your acting.
Building a resume, yeah. I got a little portfolio now going.
Yeah. I see a future.
Did you do the voices too, Mayor?
No, I did not. Those, did not do the puppet. I did not do the puppet. What was that, Andrew?
Actually, our
Sad.
Councilmember Borderoot, our children's librarians did all the voices. Yeah, so talented staff as well. We've got one informal report on the agenda today. It's IR 284, provides an update on a multi-phase master planning process for the Cameron Park Zoo. I see we've got some of our great board members from the Cameron Park Zoological Society in the room today. Appreciate that. As noted in the IR, the board plans to fund the full cost of this master planning process. I think it's estimated at about $250,000, and begin the process in May and June of this year with a selection of a consultant. We think it'll take about a year to get all the way through this plan, and we'll look forward to presenting to the council at a future work session the results, likely in the spring of next year. So I just want to say thanks to the board for their continued support out at the zoo. Couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, it's a good little report in there. I'll just echo your appreciation of the Cameron Park Zoological Society and the great leadership out there. Jeff Holloman, Nancy Lacey, Christian Hack, that whole board out there is really strong. Helped us get through the whole penguin exhibits and the black-footed cat exhibits and all that. And now we're on to kind of a next step. I think the last plan was 1996, I believe is what the information said. So it's time for a new 5-year plan. We appreciate the society taking the lead on this thing.
All right. We've got 2 public hearings on the agenda tonight. Clint Peters, Director of Development Services, and Jonathan Cook, Director of Parks and Recreation, will each cover their respective items later in our meeting. We've got 29 resolutions on the agenda, and I'd like to just highlight one, and it won't be a surprise, I don't think, to Councilmember Rodriguez which one I want to highlight. It's Resolution 302, which considers the naming of our new public park and public amenities along Waco Creek near the development of the Floyd Casey Stadium site. Councilmember Rodriguez has been just a fierce advocate for the park over near Floyd Casey, and so it's a huge honor, and I'm sure the council agrees, to bring forth a recommendation for that park to have her name on it. And so that's part of what Resolution 302 does, and very excited about bringing that one forward this evening.
Vote on that or not? Would that be a conflict?
I think we're,
No conflict, no financial interest, that's true.
You can vote.
I think we're,
She may even make the motion on that one, and then we'll
Can't hear
see.
you.
You are allowed to vote on that.
Oh, thank you.
We have 2 ordinances on the
talk more
agenda.
about that tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Good or bad?
It's all going to be good. It's all going to be good.
We do have 2 ordinances on your agenda today. Ordinance 324 is a first reading to increase the city's contributions in a developer participation agreement for wastewater upsizing, wastewater infrastructure upsizing, and the remaining ordinance is on second reading. And Mayor and Council, take any questions you might have regarding the agenda.
Any questions or comments, council members? I'll just a couple of the resolutions. Obviously, we're going to have fun tonight talking about 302 and the renaming of the streets in the park and all that. I did want to talk about, we have 3 in there. It's 312, 313, and 315 traffic signals. We're getting some of its Fed grants and some of its city funds, really focusing on traffic signal improvements in the city. And I know as some of these storms went through this week, and the last couple of weeks, that some of these kind of shored out, and so we're doing the best to focus on improving our traffic signals throughout the city, and this is symbolic of we need to fix a lot of them, but we are getting to them as we can get to them. The other one I wanted to talk about just for a second was 320. And I'm sure everybody looked at this one, kind of went on, but this one is a pretty cool deal where city staff was very resourceful in reacting to a kind of a high bid and working with the bidder on rehabbing some equipment, digesters specifically, and even more specifically, secondary anaerobic digester covers. And we saved about over $2 million in reworking the contract to rehabilitate one of the covers instead of buying a whole new one for, I think it was a $9.5 million bid. And instead we kept it to $7.3 million. So it's little things like these where I see staff is working at it. That's a $2.1 million savings to the taxpayers and getting to the same place on where we need to be at the central plant. So I commend and applaud what you guys have done there. I want to make sure you're getting the credit on that. That's really all I had. Any other comments or questions on the business session agenda? Okay, the consent agenda, I'll move to that now, includes resolutions 2025-295 through resolution 2025-323. Are there any items that council would like to remove from the consent agenda? We will be voting separately on 319, as City Manager Ford mentioned, and also 302, as we've already mentioned. The next item on the agenda is work session items 2025-285 through 2025-288. City Manager Ford, would you please introduce the first work session?
Yes, sir. We're going to start with work session 286, which is a discussion of fiscal year 2024, 2025, and 2025-2026 operating budget, as well as speak to our upcoming development of next year's budget. Blue Koslet, our Assistant City Manager, as well as Colin Booth, serves our Director of Finance, are going to join us. As I've indicated a few times over the last 12 months, we are in year 2 of a 4-year journey of fiscal constraint. It shouldn't be a surprise at this point. Accordingly, I went to our department heads recently to ask for budget efficiencies, to identify budget savings and offsets with the goal of reducing our general fund budget expenditures by about 5%, as well as 5% reduction in non-general fund accounts. Blue's going to share some results from that exercise today, and I just want to say you should be real proud of your department heads and your leaders in the city. They're up for the challenge, and look forward to Blue sharing more about that here in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. So I'm going to start out with the Q2 financial report. These are unaudited results through March 31st of 2025, and that's 50% of the way through the fiscal year. So that's generally a benchmark that we should keep in mind as I'm kind of looking at these numbers. So we actually have 11 funds that we're reporting on this afternoon. I did add the street maintenance fee fund as we go through there. And so we're going to start out with the general fund by category. There are quite a few columns on this report, but what I'm going to do, Mayor and City Council, is focus on the green columns, particularly the year-to-date as a % of budget column. And you can stop me at any time and ask me any questions as I go through this information. But to orient you to this spreadsheet, the light blue columns on the left are our revised budget and actual year-to-date. Our green column is remaining balance and year-to-date as a percentage of budget. The orange columns are comparing revised budget and year-to-date from last year with a variance and a percentage variance, so you can see how the revenues and the expenses have been compared to the same time as last fiscal year. And then further on the right, you can see the monthly budget for FY25, the monthly budget variance, and the percentage variance for FY25. But again, as I mentioned, I'm going to walk down the year-to-date green column as a percentage of budget. So for the general fund by category, revenues have collected 73% of budget. Property taxes are at 98% of budget. I'm just going to hit some highlights here. Intergovernmental revenue, which is grant revenue, is at 77% of budget. When we look at expense by category further down, the general fund has spent or encumbered 53%. And as I mentioned last time, this does include encumbrances, which are those purchase orders that reserve that money to be spent at a later date. Salaries and wages for the general fund are at 49%, so right on track for that 50% of the way through the fiscal year. Contracts with others are at 103%. On the next slide are general fund expenses by department, and so just to hit a few of the highlights here. Again, we're still at 53%. Contributions department is at 62% of budget spent or encumbered. Fire services is at 51%, police services are at 50%, and parks services are at 50% of budget. On slide 5, general fund revenue, just to kind of drill into the numbers a little bit, franchise fees are at 42% of budget, licenses and permit revenues are at 51% of budget, and intergovernmental, which again is that grant revenue, is at 77% of budget. On the expense side, yes, sir.
Colin, when we say, I got to go back and look. When we say 42% of budget, is that year-to-date budget or
Yes,
of the entire year? Or
It's
what do we say?
collected 42% of the entire year's budget, yes.
Okay, not 40% of the second quarter budget,
That
or
is-
6 months.
That's correct. This would be 42% of the entire year's budget for franchise fees. Yes, sir. Good question.
Yeah, maybe put annual budget in there, I guess.
Sure, absolutely.
Is that something you would expect to catch up?
Yes, sir. I do expect that to catch up. A lot of franchise fees are quarterly basis, and so you might have the 3/31 quarterly payment coming in after March 31st. So, yes, sir.
So it might be helpful to do that measurement, again, we'll go through this whole thing, but measurement as of, because this is through the second quarter, right?
That is
of this
correct. Yes, sir.
Fiscal year.
Yes, sir.
Just where are we through 6 months? Our 6-month budget, are we ahead or behind?
Sure, absolutely, and we do have that, if I'll just back up to slide 4, for example.
Okay.
That's going to be your column on the extreme right, monthly budget variance percentage fiscal year to date, and monthly budget variance. So we basically break down the budget, that's basically 50%. And so you can see on those dark blue columns where we're comparing that monthly budget FY25 year to date, monthly budget variance, and then the monthly budget variance percentage. So you can kind of compare that
Great.
to how much we've gone through that fiscal year, and again, that's 50%. So, thank you.
Great. And then, so if you, to answer George and my questions, what would the franchise fee be? Is that on the previous slide? There we go.
Yes, sir.
Not on this one.
If you look at slide 3, you can see the franchise fees up there at the top. If you walk franchise fees over from left to right, you'll see $10,850,000 budget. You can see actual year-to-date remaining balance, so there's the 42%. You can compare that to the revised budget for fiscal year '24, which was $10.44 million.
Yeah, I would slide over to what have we done so far this year?
Yes,
And it's
sir,
2.7,
68%.
we've done 1.8, right?
Yes, sir. The monthly budget variance is $1.8 million to the positive.
So we're at 68%
Yes, sir.
through
That is
2 quarters.
Yes, sir. And
So
I
am
can,
I.
and I can adjust the detail to include that instead of year-to-date or as a percentage of the annual budget, to change that as a percentage of the quarter or the,
Year-to-date.
yes, sir. Okay, continuing on with slide 5. Salaries and wages are at 49% of budget, which is right on track. Maintenance expense accounts are at 76% of budget, and capital expense accounts have spent or encumbered $1.236 million, or 100% of budget. Continuing on with the water fund on slide 6, you can see that water fund revenues are at 44% year-to-date percentage as budget. Interest is at 89% of budget, interest income, and charges for water services are at 44% of budget. When we look down at total expenses, down there at the bottom, you can see total expenses are at 38% of budget, salaries and wages are at 47%, Maintenance is at 71%, and supplies are at 75% of budget. And on slide 7, revenues for metered water sales are at 41% of budget. That's about $25.6 million. That'll continue to climb as we get into the summer and into the hotter months. We'll sell more water. We'll sell more water at that time, increasing our revenues there. Other water sale charges, it is about $2.9 million, or 46% of budget, and then water and wastewater collection fees is at 46% of budget. Again, that's based on the annual budget. Expenses, including encumbrance for for water treatment chemicals, is over budget by about $78,000, and again, that's spent or encumbered. Water treatment electricity is at 44% of the annual budget, and water treatment maintenance is at about 87% of budget. The wastewater fund, which includes our wastewater fund plus our WMARS fund, or the Waco Area Regional Wastewater Treatment Fund. This fund is at 49% of budget. The charges for water and, for wastewater service is at 50% of the budget under charges for services line. The interest income is at 86% of budget, and again, for total revenue of 49%. And again, I'm walking down the green shaded column there. In terms of expenses by category, the entire fund is at 35% of budget. That's very low because we have a large transfer out budget, but we haven't made very many of those transfers out, and I anticipate catching up on that as we go throughout the fiscal year. But salaries and wages are at 45%, professional and technical services are at 67%, and other operating expenses are at 67% of budget.
Help me out one more time on this column?
Sure. Yes, sir.
So light blue says 34 million, we've actually charged 34.2 million. And then I'm going over to the dark blue, that's a monthly, which is the year-to-date budget?
Yes, so the year-to-date budget would be the monthly budget year-to-date. Actually,
So that's 17 million, so we're bringing in twice as much as what we budgeted?
let's see here. So we've got the monthly budget year-to-date is $18,108,000. I think I might have an incorrect equation in there because that should be half of the budget. And then our monthly budget variance for FY25 year-to-date is that $17,034,000 compared to the $34,255,000. So I need to double check that.
It's new columns and stuff.
Yes, sir.
I asked for them last time, but I appreciate you incorporating them.
Yeah,
We're still working on it.
absolutely. And I think I just need to verify this particular one on the wastewater. So,
Got it.
I appreciate that there. So, this one is a combined fund, and so sometimes the
Oh, that's right,
equations
'cause
are
we
a little
throw
bit.
Mars in there.
So sometimes because I'm combining two funds here, I think the equation's wrong in that, so I apologize about that.
with you.
We'll get that fixed for next time. Thank you. Okay, so slide 9, the revenues for the WMARS, charges for wastewater, at 45% of budget. The WMARS capacity charge is at about 50% of budget, $2.2 million. The wastewater charges for services are at $24 million, or 50% of budget, right on track for the fiscal year. And then wastewater miscellaneous revenue is well under budget at 0.1%, so we're going to keep an eye on that account. Expenses, including encumbrances for our wastewater vehicle capital accounts, about 42% of budget. The wastewater maintenance account has spent or encumbered $42,000, or 108% of budget. The WMARS chemical supplies account is at 133%, and then the WMARS special services account is at about 106%. And again, that is spent or encumbered. Looking at slide 10, we've got the solid waste fund. And again, continuing down that green column, our total revenue is 43% of budget. In charges for services for solid waste, which will include the residential and commercial and industrial solid waste collections, are at 44%. Continuing down the expense by category, salaries and wages is at 40%, so just under 10% under the 50% benchmark. and the other operating expenses are at 135% there, and total expenses are at 48% of budget. Drilling down into some of the numbers for solid waste, our charges for commercial service revenue is at $3.3 million, or 52% of budget. Charges for residential service revenue is at $7.479 million, or 51% of budget, and then charges for service for landfill is at about 36% of budget. Our solid waste special services account, which includes contract payments, is at 389% of budget, so that's over budget there, but it's only a $273,000 account. Solid waste landfill special services account is at 88% of budget. Our drainage fund is at 49% total revenue collected. Our charges for services are about 48% there, so tracking just above. Our interest income is a little bit higher, 192%. Continuing down the expense category column, our total expenses are at 52% of budget. Salaries and wages are at 35%, and professional and technical services are at 102%. Continuing on with slide 13, our drainage fee revenues are at 48% of budget. That's our main source of revenue for this fund. And again, I mentioned investment earnings. Those are at 192%, or at $95,000. Expenses, stormwater operations, machinery, and equipment has spent or encumbered 58% of budget, and engineering special services account is over budget at 116%. The Cameron Park Zoo Fund, they are at 49% of revenues, including charges for services for their admissions and their other charges that they charge customers for, is at 49%. Total expenses are at 47% of budget. Salaries and wages are at 47%, and maintenance is at 67% of budget. On slide 15, drilling into the numbers a little bit, admissions revenue is at $1.4 million, or 49% of budget. Zoo merchandise sales are at also tracking around that 48%. And also just wanted to mention that attendance is higher in this fiscal year for the zoo, so that's a bright spot that we see in these numbers. Every month this fiscal year has seen higher attendance than the same month in the prior fiscal year. So that's good news for the zoo and how they're tracking. On the expense side, their expenses including encumbrances, their operating supplies are at 57% of budget, and then their special services contract account is at 92% of budget.
I hate to be a pain in the ass on
No,
this one,
that's
but
okay.
go
No worries.
flip back, but I am, okay.
Yes, sir.
So can you flip back to the previous one?
And apologies to our viewers at home.
Those kids at home, yeah,
Stop
sorry.
me at
Craig.
any time.
Mom and Dad,
Mayor
you
and
shouldn't
City
be listening to
Council,
this.
always welcome.
Mayor, I have a question. Do we have one of those buzzers in the back that like bleeps out bad words? We need to check.
Are we on a
that.
delay? Are we on a delay?
It brings up an interesting
one.
question.
No, this is where I was kind of curious about, I forget, Blue, if we put seasonality into our zoo budget. Was it, I don't think we just flatlined, we're going to make 100,000 a month or whatever. We had summer months and all like that. In this one, I see those, again, we're trying to get the dark blues. I don't think that 726 is not right? So please confirm that is not correct.
We will look into that one, Mayor.
Yeah, because otherwise we'd be showing that we're,
I'm not sure if this one is seasonally adjusted or not. There are some of the major funds that do have some seasonality based upon the account.
it wouldn't seem if we had 2.9 charges for services that through 6 months, we'd only have 726, but again, we're working on that. I do like this one because we're showing year over year that we are ahead, 1.349 last year to 1.411 this year. That's correct, right?
That's correct, yes.
All right. Okay. Just, those last blue ones we'll work on. And each one, not just the WMRs.
On slide 16, we've got the Cottonwood Creek Golf Course Fund. So our total revenues there are at 42%. We've got two charges for services lines here. One of them is the governmental, and the other one is the enterprise charges for services. That's the one to hone in on, which is the green fees and such. That's at 42% of budget. When you continue on down the column with salaries and wages, we're at 49% for salaries and wages. Other purchase services is going to be 74%. For their services out there at the golf course, and then total expenses are at 60% spent or encumbered. Drilling in a little bit more on the numbers, our golf course green fee revenue is at 43% of budget, and our golf course cart fee revenue is at 40% of budget. And on our expenses, our customer service special services contract account is at 87% spent or encumbered. Our chemical supplies are at 66% of budget. Continuing on with our airport fund on slide 18, our airport fund revenues are at total at 50%. The charges for services for airport revenues out there are at 53%. Salaries and wages at 47%. Professional and technical services are at 157%. That's primarily driven by the contract for the airport manager and the services there, which will be covered by salary savings. And as we dig into the revenues, a little bit more, the flowage fees for the airport are at 52% of budget. Airport cargo hangar revenues are at 52% of budget, and landing fee revenues are at 120% of budget, or $56,200. Our expenses for special services account, they're at 174% of budget. I mentioned why just a minute ago. Our airport budget, airport building maintenance account has spent or encumbered $10,989, or 15% of budget. So that's lower, and so that's offsetting some of the higher amounts there. The Texas Ranger Hall of Fame Fund, the revenues for that fund are at 48%. The charges for services for their admissions and their other revenues are at 43%, so just lower than that 50% benchmark. The total expenses are right at the 50% benchmark, with salaries and wages at 55%, professional technical services at 53%. The admissions revenue for the Hall of Fame Fund is at 51% of budget, or at $161,000. Net merchandise sales are at 44% of budget. The salaries account has spent or encumbered 43% of budget, and salaries category is higher due to the retirement of a department director over there. And then finally, the Street Maintenance Fund is the new fund that we added to this report. The total revenue is at about 52%. For the street maintenance fees in particular, it's tracking right on that 51% amount there. And then when we get into the expenses, we're at 46%. Capital expenses are at 49%, and professional and technical services are at 63% of budget there.
Real quick, just a point of clarification, it seems like on all of the funds except for, I think, water, we've exceeded sort of the 50% kind of halfway benchmark, and some by vast amounts, and you touched on the last one with the airport for professional technical services. Is that projected in that way to be really front-loaded to the front half of the year?
Yes, sir. There's a lot of that in this report, because a lot of it comes down to encumbrances, where they're doing a purchase order, they are reserving all of that money up front, and so you're gonna see some of those to be higher than the the first month. They're typically encumbering all of that money. Yeah. So that's a lot of them, particularly like when I mentioned on the golf course and some of those others. They're going to go out, they're going to do an encumbrance, they're going to reserve all of that money, it's going to take it out of their budget, and then they're going to spend that money down kind of over time. But it's an accounting device to make sure that you're reserving that money to be spent later date, but it does kind of throw off the numbers when you look at it from a year-to-date basis.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Continuing on with the Street Maintenance Fund, again, the street maintenance fees revenues are at 47% of budget. Investment earnings are doing well. We had a conservative budget for investment earnings, so they're at $226,000, almost $227,000 there. Street maintenance construction expenses are at 48% of budget. The maintenance account has spent or encumbered 53% of budget, and the special services contract account has spent or encumbered 82% of budget. And I know I went through that pretty fast. We'll go back through these numbers, Mayor and Council, and double check these on the, in the dark blue columns, and we'll make sure that we're tracking these with your expectations and get those reconciled and matched up.
Good job, Colin. Yeah, and then, I appreciate you trying to incorporate my whole intricacies of budget review stuff in there.
Absolutely, no problem, Mayor. Thank
Looks
you.
good. It's looking good.
All right, Mayor, Council, we're gonna shift gears and start looking at fiscal year 25. We're gonna start taking a look at fiscal year 26. And as we're going through this process and putting together a budget to present to you, midway through this process, about midway, we just kind of want to take a moment, kind of give you an overview of the economic outlook that we're looking at, not just for the next 4 months when we start, but also throughout next year, and kind of what we're seeing, what we expect to see as far as the economy, not just at the national level, state level, but also at the local level. I'll give you some revenue trends, the efficiency efforts that City Manager Ford discussed. So we will go through that today, starting with the anticipated economic environment that we're in. And I'm sure everybody has heard the word inflation over the last few months, and it is something that we are constantly watching. CPI in March increased by about 2.4% year over year, which was down from the prior month of 2.8%. In February, core inflation stayed in March at 2.8%, but it remains sticky, and it's projected right now to finish the year at about 3.1% now. It was down into the low twos a couple of months ago, but with some of the trade policies and some of the economic uncertainty that has come out as far as the sentiment of the policy that is being discussed, that expectation has risen to about 3.1% for 2025, 3.7% for 2026. So those upticks really catching up to the economy, catching up to the market, really in about Q3, since all of those with the tariffs are kind of starting really now with the ships coming in. Really anticipate that to hit the economy in about Q3 of 2025. GDP, for the first time since early 2022, shrunk in Q1, contracted by about 0.3%. Primarily, that was driven by a lot of orders ahead of time, a lot of imports surging, trying to get in front of the potential tariffs at that time, the talks that were out there. We know now in Q2 what those were and how they're starting to roll out, being pushed back, but there's still a lot of uncertainty around this. It's something that we're watching, and that does have an effect on our consumer out there. Consumer confidence is down to about 52.2. This is the University of Michigan, their index that they use to gauge consumer confidence. That's down about 32.4% versus last year. So a significant decrease. Really on this metric, what you want to see is around that 80. So what we saw in the economy from about the 2012 to right before the pandemic is about the level that you want to see in this consumer confidence index. But with everything that's going on right now, we are down to about the low 50s, and absent any change in rhetoric or actual policy, we expect that to stay pretty low over the next few months, the next fiscal year for sure. Looking specifically at the local economy, our population, the growth over the last few years from 2015 to 2024 grew at about 1.14%. I know in 2020 there was a correction with the census that came out. Census had a lot of issues because of the pandemic, so some of the college towns, primary college towns, were undercounted because of the student population that had to leave, and so they were here. They are part of our population, but they weren't actually counted and attributed to the city itself. So we do know that there's a little bit of a correction, but the trend remained the same 2022 through 2024. So we feel like the population is around that 146,000 mark right now. 2025 through 29, a little bit slower growth, but still about that 1.1%. And that leads into our labor force and our participation rates throughout the last few years, 2015 through 2024, have had steady growth in both labor force and the participation. We expect that to continue in our economy and continue contributing to our economy. As far as unemployment rate, of course, the pandemic, again, you see that impact, that factor. But prior to the pandemic, 2015 to 2019, we're on a good downward trend from 4.1 down to 3.4%. Leveled out after the pandemic, about that 3.7, 3.8. We do anticipate that to continue to decrease, but moderately decrease, still staying around that 3.8 to 3.6%. This is below the state average and below the national average, so good strong economy here. And as we develop, as we bring in new businesses, we've had a couple of big announcements lately. We do anticipate that poverty rate to continue to decrease from 2015 down to 2024. You see significant improvement in our local poverty rate. Still a lot of room to grow in order to improve that, but over the next few years, 2025 projected out to 2029, still in that 23 to 22% range. And then looking at the median income for Waco over the last 10 years, 2014 through 2023, looking at about a 4.6% growth overall in median income. That is great growth. We do feel like that's going to moderate with the economy a little bit down to that 2.5 to 2.6% range. And you can see how that breaks down through the families. Families and married couple families really grew significantly in 2014 through 2023. We do anticipate that to moderate a little bit. Non-family is the one, 4% historical, and estimated about that 4.1 to 4.2% going forward. So all that
Great information, Blue. I like this series of pages here, 27 through whatever we just did there.
through 31.
Yeah, through 31. But it's really good because it points out that we're in a strong Texas economy. We're in a strong I-35 corridor economy, but we're not completely immune from macroeconomics that are going on not only in the U.S. but worldwide, and it affects Waco. And we have to. It's one thing just to plan around what we think is going to happen here, but we have to take all these macro issues into consideration. And I like it. It's a good presentation. I wish we need to do this like on a quarterly basis or so. I like the series of slides. It's very helpful.
We can add that in.
Great.
All right, Mayor, Council, after long anticipated wait, we did get our preliminary values from Clinton Central Appraisal District. Pleased to report we did see significant growth. If you look at that total bottom line, that's your net taxable value, not market value, net taxable value. So our preliminary in 2026, $18.16 billion. That's up from our certified roll of $16.3 billion in fiscal year 25, 1.87, $1.9 billion, or 11.5% increase. Got that broken down a little bit easier to see on this chart because that was a lot of numbers on that last one, that last table, but good information. Single-family residences, one of the strongest growth engines here in Waco for a long time. Prior 5 years to this, growing at about 8% per year. Fiscal year 26 did moderate in our preliminary values down to that 6.8% range. We do feel like that is a little bit of the taxable values in single-family residences catching up to the market values. So when you have that 10% cap, they will go up to that 10% until you start getting closer to that market value. So we see some of that tapering off of the rapid expansion over that 10% in single-family residences. In multifamily, that's one of the biggest growth. The prior 5 years was only 5% growth. In fiscal year 26, we did see a 21.5%. However, if you look at that, we were seeing 1.8 billion in fiscal years 23 and 24. That dropped down to 1.7. Not exactly sure what happened on that certified value. I haven't been able to identify that one just yet. But we're digging through the data on that one to see where that $100 million was. Excuse me, but if you project out in fiscal year '26, we think that has corrected because that is much more in line with the trend of growth in the multifamily. Commercial, we saw significant growth in the commercial, and that's both real and personal properties. Prior 5 years, we're growing at about 4.5%. In fiscal year '26, we saw a 13.5% increase in our preliminaries. In industrial, the same steady growth there, 17.7 in the prior 5 years, and we are seeing about 15.4% on our preliminaries. So commercial and industrial, good strong growth in both of those, which helps with when you're talking about the property taxes with single-family and multifamily residences. Now, what we do see, Mayor and Council, I want to bring this up to you. We typically see a drop between our preliminary values and our certified values. Now, that's a lot because during this time period, there's a lot going on with protests and a lot of exemptions that are coming out and coming to light. So as people are working through this after they got their notifications, they're going to be working with the Central Appraisal District. So we do see a typical drop in our market value of about 2.6 to 2.7. So if that holds, our $24.7 billion market value could drop to about $24 billion. And on the taxable value, the net taxable, which is where we actually apply our tax rate to get our levy, that drop is about a little bit more significant with more exemptions and some conservative values from the Appraisal Review Board of about 5.9 to 6.1%. So that $18.2 billion that you saw, we might actually we anticipate actually taxing on $17.2 billion, so a drop of $1 billion on that. TIF 1 is seeing good growth still. So TIF 1 historically growing about 8%. Large correction in fiscal year '22, but continuing to improve every single year, up 5.32%, up to $907 million. TIF 4 taxable values since fiscal year '23, about a 44% growth rate per year in TIF 4. We are seeing in this latest one up to $594 million, which is about a 35% increase. Looking at sales tax, a lot of cities across Texas right now are struggling in the sales tax. Discretionary spending has been kind of compressing, and there's been a little bit of a pullback. We started to see that last month in the collections that we got from the February sales. Our February sales in 2025 were $4.2 million, just slightly below, not much, but slightly below the prior year, February 2024. On the right side, if you look at that, the comparable fiscal year to date, we are 7.1% up this year, so still doing very strong and very much in line with a lot of our peer cities. Mayor Council, this is a new chart, so I'll take a minute here and just say what we've been kind of saying on our sales taxes and what has concerned us is what we're trying to summarize in this chart. In very plain English, on that top chart, you want to see that dark blue line stay above the signal line, which is your bright blue line. That light blue is a 6-month simple moving average of your collections. It kind of gives you a little bit of a trend in what you're doing. That 12 to 36 month variance is just 2 simple moving averages, and you're kind of gauging whether they're compressing against each other or if they're widening against each other. You want to have them widening against each other, which will make that blue line stay above. So this is where we've been saying that even though sales tax is up right now year over year, we have been seeing the pullback and a little bit of leveling, and this is kind of what this is saying. Anytime that dark blue line is approaching that light blue, you're starting to see, and you need to start paying attention, maybe start to think about budgeting a little bit more conservatively going forward. And that's what we've been seeing since really in that 2022 timeframe, with it being below, but starting to get back up to that line, but hanging around our simple moving average. So we are going to take a conservative approach for fiscal year '26, Because of the economy, because of what we're seeing in this trend right here, we think that is financially prudent to not anticipate the type of growth that we've seen over the last few years in sales tax. Breaking right down our sales tax by industry, I know, Council, you've asked this a few times. We have a little bit of analysis here, and this also plays back into why we think we need to budget fiscal year 2026 a little bit more conservatively than what we've seen historically. Most of, if not about 47 to 48% of our sales tax comes from the retail industry. That's that dark brown maroon line at the top of your chart on your left. So that retail is one of the first things that will drop if discretionary spending starts pulling back. Usually your services, manufacturing, miscellaneous professional services don't drop as quickly as your retail will. Looking at hotel occupancy, year to date, still doing good year to date on that left-hand side. Historically, compared to our budget about this time, we're about 12.7% over budget, still about that 9.4% right now at this point in fiscal year 25. So occupancies, we are seeing a little bit lower at this point, but average daily rates and RevPAR has been up for the hotel industry. So still getting good results from that at about $3.5 million of collections so far against a $3.2 million budget. We expect that to carry forward throughout the full fiscal year. We don't see any contraction in our hotel occupancy tax. So ending the year somewhere around $7.5 million, which would bring us $300,000 over budget for hotel occupancy tax. All right, projected excess reserves. These, Mayor, Council, want to say, when we're talking reserves for as far as budget, we have to shift our mind away from what we did with the policy reserves for our audit. Policy reserves are used for compliance for that audit and bond covenants, that 1.25 times coverage that we typically have in some of our covenants. That's really where that 25% comes from. The cash available for budget reallocation is a focus on our cash in hand right now as available for next year's budget based upon some one-time capital projects. Our policy does, financial policies do call for the use of these excess reserves towards one-time capital projects. So we do still manage to that 25%, which is why it can get a little confusing, but it's focused on cash and working capital rather than just your next year's projected revenues. So we do have this. I want to say, Mayor, Council, this is preliminary. We are still working through some of the working capital because of the different ways that we have to account for enterprise funds versus governmental funds. We're still working through some working capital calculations, especially in the general fund. So your funds available right now in the general fund showing at about $38 million of excess available for reallocation. Will likely drop some once we get the working capital all worked out. On your major enterprise utilities, if you look to the far right, looking at where we might end the fiscal year for fiscal year 25, you're going to have about $15.7 million in water to reallocate. Wastewater is going to be about $14.6 million, solid waste at $4 million, and drainage at $2.7 to $3 million, somewhere around there. So still good results. We do have some cash available to put forward. It is important to note on this, we do need to have a strategy going forward. It's not necessarily the best to draw it all down because it didn't come in all in one year. This has been building up over several years. So if we have a planned drawdown, that's really where we need to go with this. But it's good to balance your cash with some of your projects going forward. All right, Mayor, Council, I think City Manager Ford already alluded to this, our fiscal year 26 efficiency efforts. If you recall, we've talked to you all about pursuing the efficiencies, and what we've set up in this is exactly where we're going with this. We're facing a temporary economic slowdown. Really, it's gonna require all of us to be thoughtful about what we do, how we operate, and the services that we provide. So it does have some necessary budgetary reductions. We're looking at ways of being more efficient with what we're doing. Our goal of ensuring the long-term financial stability while maintaining essential services and quality of life remained constant throughout this process as we were putting this budget together. So our efficiency targets were $24 million total. That was $12 million in enhancements from the general fund, $12 million from non-general fund departments, and all departments were participating in this effort. So there wasn't just one or two here and there. Every single department and every single department director put their minds together. They got with their teams, and they saw if there was any way that they could reduce what they were doing, what they were spending, or if there was a new way of operating that would be more efficient, more cost-effective. So this was at the department level. They were the ultimate drivers of this once they were given the target. And the efficiency results, I will tell you right now, $32.1 million of efficiencies identified. So out of that 24 million, they came back with 32.1. In the general fund, that was 12.4 million, 11.7 million of that being recurring efficiencies. And that's really what we're focused on. We're not really looking for one-time efficiencies because those are not as ideal for us going forward and resetting the base for how we're operating. But those recurring efficiencies help us to reset that base and be able to change how we're operating, how we're moving forward. This $12.4 million, though, I do want to remind everybody because this was not just their first effort. The general fund did cut $10 million out of this current year's budget. So this is $12.4 million on top of the $10 million that they've already cut out. And then the non-general fund for their first swipe found $19.8 million in efficiencies, $15.4 million of which was reoccurring. So really hit that target of $24 million, even on the recurring. By department on the left, you can go down the admin, council, economic development, all the way through the general fund, all of the participants to this. So you can see every single department, mostly those reoccurring impacts, but that total impact down there at $12.4 million, 11.6 million of that being the recurring. So all up in that quadrant one with a couple of departments that we're still working with, but overall, very, very good results here. Looking at the non-general fund and their efficiency efforts, again, like I said, every single department was participating in this. Total impact of $19.8 million. So they beat their target by 64, almost 65%. 15.4 of that being reoccurring, $4.4 million being one-time impacts. A lot of really great work by our departments to really take heart and take ownership of this. We do want to reiterate, again, I think a lot of this has made some people raise their eyebrows a little bit about what are we doing. We are, as we're facing this economy, we're doing this so that we can take care of the current employees that we have. We're going to take care of everything that we own, that we operate. That's really our primary focus. So as we move forward, we can continue to build upon this new base and drive ourselves forward in a way more efficient manner. So in summary, the fiscal year 26 landscape, again, a lot of economic uncertainty. We're monitoring the 89th legislative session. I know our Chief of Staff, Ashley Nystrom, is going to be up here and give you a little bit of an update on the 89th legislative session. Going to see how that impacts us and what we can and cannot do going forward, how we need to change our operations based upon the new bills that are passed. But the local economy has stayed resilient. Indicators are signaling that slowdown, and we're seeing it, but we are getting ahead of that and preparing ourselves to remain resilient throughout any slowdown. Again, these slowdowns are cyclical in nature, so this isn't going to be forever, but it is for now, and we're going to be ahead of it. We're going to be ready for it. Our key sources of revenues, the preliminary values are holding strong. We anticipate lower certified values, but still it's going to be up from where we are today. Sales tax, positive, but that momentum has slowed. The heavy reliance on our retail industry, services sectors, may dampen that upwards trends due to some discretionary spending pullbacks by our consumers. Hotel occupancy taxes are remaining strong. Expect $300,000 to add to fund balance. And again, our efficiency efforts, very, very proud of this city and the departments, the leadership, the teams that all came together to meet those. The remaining budget schedule, Mayor Council, June 3rd, regular City Council meeting, will be back with you for a work session, but June 6th is when we will have everything really in depth with you at our City Council budget retreat. That's going to be out at the Brick that Friday, June 6th. From then, Colin's team and I will be working on finishing up the budget, making sure everything ties out. We'll be back with you on August 5th for work session. That's going to be adoption of the maximum tax rate and a first reading of the ordinance setting of the departments. We'll have budget and audit on August 12th, August 19th, regular session. And then September 2nd is going to be one of the big days that we have action for the budget public hearing, the budget adoption resolution, ratification, and that's going to be the tax rate public hearing and first reading of that tax rate ordinance. September 9th is the second reading of that, and that's going to be a special City Council meeting. That, Mayor, Council, I'll stop here and answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Blue. Any questions or comments for the finance team?
Yeah, thanks, Blue, and Colin, for this presentation. I had a few questions, and I'm not quite sure that they're yours to answer, but maybe we'll figure out where it goes, because my mind is saying it's either you and ED or you and an outside org like Prosper Waco, because I need to, Mayor was asking about especially the job growth and poverty level data to be broken out, like I think you may have said quarterly. But how are we drilling that down even more to compare and disaggregating that data to compare from if the number of industry that is coming online at this point to walk it together to see if, because we have brought in this industry or incentivized these companies to come here and or encouraging more upskilling, and with the work site coming online, how those things will correlate to see if what we're doing, see how much the impact of what we're doing is making on our actual numbers, especially reflective of our poverty rate, because while the rate is decreasing, it's still higher than most. And it's something that, we have to sit and settle with and figure out a solution for Waco, regardless of what's happening in our state or country. So I'd like to see if we can walk that a little bit closer together. Like I said, I don't know if that's whose job that is, but as the chair of Prosper Waco, feel free to call Dr. Rhodes and get him involved and circle in this, because I think that I would like to see how those things walk together.
Absolutely. We can work with Prosper, we can work with economic development and pull something together for that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thanks for the presentation, and grateful to city staff and our departments and kind of the team effort of identifying these efficiencies and all kind of participating in the citywide budget tightening. I know that's not easy. Maybe going from, kind of a paid lunch to a brown bag lunch, maybe finding what positions haven't been filled in a long time, figuring out, where the excess is to be able to streamline that for the city. So appreciate your sharing this with us, but also our department heads and staff of the city in helping us reduce our costs for our consumers and our residents.
I just second that. Really great work from you guys and your teams. Budget tightening is never easy. It is change, and it's typically not the good kind of change, but it's great to know that we as a council and city management can sort of give a direction in terms of what costs we need to look at saving, and know that we can trust our teams here at the city and on staff to go and find that savings. So I really appreciate that work because I know it's not easy.
Yeah, Blue, Colin, great presentation. Love the flow to this one. It seems like this gets better every time, and I appreciate your, what do you call these one kind of graphs here? I like these little bubble charts.
It's exactly what they're called, bubble charts.
They're called bubble charts.
I mean, it's
Right.
highly sophisticated name.
The bubble charts are good. Nice ad. I just want to say, yeah, nice flow of good information. I'm excited about our values in the city. We haven't seen deterioration there. I know other cities are seeing some, and we are in a good place with people's properties continuing to see good values in them. And this is also in the context of bringing in a lot of commercial businesses these last few years, graphic packaging and Electrolit, Coca-Cola, and all these new businesses coming to town are really helping us on that. And we're not seeing the full effect of those either. We're taking, because particularly those that are under construction, we're only taking the portion that's constructed and factoring that into the value. So I'm optimistic about what we're looking like here in this year and the next couple of years. I appreciate the efficiency efforts, and what I like most about it is you're not like looking at stuff and taking out a chainsaw and knocking things out. This is scalpel. You guys are using a scalpel, not a chainsaw, and you've taken 2, 3, 4 months, and we'll continue to kind of look at that until we finalize this budget. And I just want taxpayers and residents to know that this is not a deterioration in services. We are improving services. We strive for best-in-class services. And one thing it's hard to put in the numbers and what the efficiency looks like, but we've mentioned this in past meetings about processes and software and programming and that kind of customer interface that we're working on and been very intentional about these last couple of years. And I think it was in the last meeting, right, where we talked about where we're implementing some of that software here this year and next year, which will help our customer service improve even more. We will continue to see, customer service improvements, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of our most important asset, and that's our employees, our city employees. So as we see these efficiencies, I think we're gonna have even higher customer satisfaction here. So I appreciate this, and there's some things I want to see some of this stuff coming in quarterly, because it really is helpful to see some of the macro things that are going on as we deal, day to day and week to week and month to month and look at our budget. But anyway, great job. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic, thanks. All right, our next item is work session 2025-285, City Manager Ford.
All right.
Is that where we're going? We're going to
That
the
is where
art?
we're going.
Okay.
We are. We're going to 7th Street. It's a discussion and update on Creative Waco's Art Apprenticeship Pavement Mural Project for the 7th Street Plaza, including an overview of the program and impact, as well as design goals, investment, and timeline for the mural. We've got Fiona Bond, Executive Director of Creative Waco, coming up. She's going to present on the 7th Street Plaza. Exciting project. You'll recall in February, city staff presented to council options for the plaza and received guidance to work with Fiona and her team, as well as the PID, on upgrading the space. So looking forward to this presentation today and to Fiona's comments.
Welcome, Fiona.
Thank you so much. Well, Mayor, council members, city manager, and team, it's always really fun to present new potential artwork to you. So thank you for giving us this time, and we're really excited about this project. So this is a design proposal for the 7th Street Plaza, and it is a collaborative project between Creative Waco, City Center Waco, representing the PID, and of course, City of Waco. I just want to recognize some of the folks in the room here today who have been part of developing this. Julie Cervantes, my colleague at Creative Waco, who's Director of Strategic Development, Amanda Dyer and Ashley Millard from Beautification Arts and Culture in the city. Africa Tava, who's here with David Nisbet today from City Centre Waco, and of course, peered input from Peter Ellis. And then, of course, Lisa Blackman and now Deidre Emerson from the City Manager's Office, and Councilmember Ewing, who was part of the selection panel, and then also recognizing Stephen Yuhi, who is our new Director of the Art Apprenticeship Program at Creative Waco. Oh, wait, there we go. So today I'm just going to give a brief introduction to the Art Apprenticeship Program, a few project details for this particular project, the proposed pavement mural design for the 7th Street Plaza, and then some next steps and what we're asking of the city. So just a reminder of our Art Apprenticeship Program. The design we're proposing will be painted as part of our Art Apprenticeship Program, which brings workforce development opportunities to talented high school artists and beauty to our city in the form of murals. Last year, of course, we were thrilled to partner with Cameron Park Zoo and the Zoological Society to bring artwork to the habitat area around the new exhibit of Cape penguins and the African black-footed cat. And this year, we have 20 apprentices who met for the first time last Friday. We have 5 artist mentors who will be coaching them through the process of taking a creative project from concept to completion. It's one of our favorite programs, and we've now been doing this for 5 years, and we are seeing the benefits in terms of how this expands the horizons of the young people who are involved in the program, but also the professional artists who are part of it. Here are some of the murals that we have painted over the last few years, which can be found throughout our downtown area. We describe the murals as a byproduct of the program. Its actual purpose is to give those high school students a glimpse of what their creative talents can unlock for their professional journey and for our community, whatever they end up choosing to do in their lives. And you can find the inspiring stories and themes behind each of those murals on our interactive public art map, which is on the Creative Waco website. We love the feedback that we get, both from the apprentices themselves and some of our mural clients. Here are a couple of quotes. My absolute favorite one was actually a verbal quote. One apprentice from back in 2019 confided to me that whenever she feels overwhelmed or powerless, she drives past the mural that she helped to create, and she says it reminds her that her voice and her input makes a difference, both to the community and to her own life. So this particular project, we are hoping to bring the art apprenticeship magic to 7th Street pedestrianized plaza. And this was developed, of course, with City Centre Waco, the PID, and our city partners. We signed a joint contract earlier this month, last month, actually. We're already in May. And we created the design goals with stakeholders and partners to guide the design process, then put out a call for designs into the community. And we had a design review panel, which comprised of Councilmember Ewing, Deidre Emerson, our Deputy City Manager, Africa Tava from City Centre Waco, Peter Ellis from the PID Board, Amanda Dyer and Ashley Millard from City Beautification Arts and Culture, myself, and Julie Cervantes. And shout out to Deidre Emerson here, because she managed to juggle evaluating designs while she was touring Germany on a trip, which I think was really impressive. So we had an open call for artists, giving a weighting to artists from the Waco area. We were asking them to create a design that engages pedestrians and visitors by transforming the space into a visually compelling and interactive experience. We were really curious to know what people would do with that directive. We wanted something that reflected Texas and Waco, whether through history, culture, nature, or local motifs. We wanted to incorporate a limited color palette for a really cohesive, impactful aesthetic, and also to make it slightly easier to paint because these are really specialist paints for a pavement application. We wanted to encourage interaction, education, and or playfulness in its design elements, and we wanted something that felt fresh, bold, positive, and inviting, making it a really standout visual landmark. We wanted artists to take a creative placemaking approach that would invite people to discover and enjoy the space itself together, especially whether it was actively being programmed or not. We wanted it to feel like a destination space in our downtown area. The area itself is, of course, the plaza area, which is between Austin Avenue and Franklin. You can see here the street view from Austin Avenue looking towards Franklin, and then the aerial layout. And here is the proposed design, which I think you have as printouts in front of you as well, just so that you have an idea of the color rendering. This is the way that it's rendering on the screen is slightly tilted towards the red. It's a more kind of tangerine color as opposed to that kind of, I don't know what to call that color, but anyway, it renders slightly differently in the artist's rendering. So this is designed to be a giant board game. It is family friendly, and the idea is that there will be a spinner on the wall, which people can use, or of course they can use an app on their phone to throw a dice. We can have actual dice in the space as well, so people can choose how they mark out how many steps they're going to take with the game. And each of those squares in the pathway has a really fun prompt. They vary from things like what made you laugh today, what 3 words best describe you, show us some dance moves, tell a bad joke. And so whichever square you land on, you then have to do whatever the prompt is in the square. And we can imagine this being played by families in the space. That's what the design would look in the space itself. And one of the things we really love about this is that it's, as you can see in the layout there, we've designed some neutral space in there too, so that it's really easy to place a stage or to activate with seating. There's plenty of space for like market-style tables and that kind of thing to go up in the space as well. But we also, one of the favorite uses of the space in the last few years has been Latino dance nights. And we can imagine a game where when the music stops, you and whoever you are dancing with, if you land on a square, you have to then play the game between the music. Just wanted to say a little bit about the artist who designed this, Haley Cash from Starving Artist. She presented this saying, we believe in the transformative power of art, and I think that really defines Haley as an artist. So she's a multidisciplinary, creative, and local entrepreneur, founder of The Starving Artist with April Lehman, which they've been running together since 2019. She has a background in design for agency, government, and in-house for various different businesses. And her clients currently include Startup Waco, Laurel Mercantile, Visit Mississippi, and Magnolia Realty. She is driven by a love of creative problem solving, and she loves art that is transformational. She loves blending strategy and artistry to bring clients' visions to life. So the timeline for this particular project, we are already at May 6th, so you can see we are kind of in mid-program here. From May 10th to 17th, we propose to site load in and prepare the site for the mural process. And then May 26th to June 15th is when we're planning to do the mural painting. We have a community paint day. Actually, it's not June 21st. We have pivoted somewhat because the team wanted to bring it forward a little bit, so it's actually proposed for May 31st. So May 31st would be Community Paint Day, and that is an opportunity for anyone from the community to come and put their mark on the pavement as part of the mural. And then July 25th is the end of the program, and we have yet to define a date for the ribbon cutting, the wrap party. Just summarizing the financial side of this project, this is a Creative Waco program that we finance through grants, foundations, and philanthropy largely, though of course the Public Improvement District is also contributing this year because it is one of their spaces. The program itself costs just over $100,000, and that includes wages that we pay to the apprentices. 80% of the apprentices are the first in their family to consider post-grade school education, and we discovered early on that it's really important that this is a wage-paying opportunity for them and that we treat it as work experience, paid work experience. And so each of them gets a stipend. And then we had the 5 teaching artists and, of course, you know, all of the other components for running this program. We get a $45,000 grant from National Endowment for the Arts. Of course, in the last week, a large chunk of National Endowment for the Arts grants have been rescinded. Fortunately, this one has not at this point, and we are very much hoping it remains. It actually, one of the priorities for those NEA grants that they are retaining is workforce development. So we are very hopeful that this one will stay. Not sure what's going to happen next year. It's that's up for grabs. We have a $25,000 grant from the Waco Foundation, just over $18,500 from City Center Waco as PID funding, and then $25,000 that we're bringing from philanthropy. So the request of the city is, of course, for City Council consideration of the proposed design. The mural work is scheduled to begin May 26th with completion by July 15th. Actually, I think we are looking to be finished by the end of June for the actual mural part of the project. We are warmly inviting council members and city employees and anyone who would like to come and join Community Paint Day on May 31st, scrub June 21st. And Creative Waco and an art apprenticeship team look forward to celebrating the completion with a wrap party in the plaza. And we also wanted to highlight that this is part of a larger revitalization of 7th Street as a downtown space with both active and passive programming potential. And this is a summary of the larger 7th Street Plaza presentation that you heard from Amanda Dyer back in February. And of course, the initiative is a partnership between City of Waco, City Center Waco, and now Creative Waco. We are very excited to take this first step in that project and look forward to working with the other partners to bring some magic and wow factor to this downtown corridor. And I welcome your questions.
Any questions or comments for Fiona in this project, guys?
Fiona, grateful for sort of your guidance and direction on this and putting together all the necessary pieces to get us to this point. Very excited to have another sort of placemaking element in downtown to reactivate the space on 7th Street that really helped us to re-engage downtown coming out of the pandemic. So the opportunity in front of us to put some more excitement there is a really great one. I think it's a beautiful mural that we've selected. I will say, I've communicated my slight concerns to you with the amount of type on the mural, and you've addressed that accordingly, so I appreciate that. But I could not be more excited to get this going, and I'm looking forward to being there on the 31st to help out and sling some paint around.
Yeah, I want to chime in and say that this proposed design is really cool, and Waco Forever, and the way that that looks makes me want that on some merchandise so badly, let alone at 7th Street. But appreciate our Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Ewing's work on this. I know Councilmember Bearfield has done a lot with Creative Waco and with some of our art installations in public spaces in the past too. So grateful for council's input and city staff's input on this, but this looks great to me. I think this is going to be a cool addition. So thank you, Fiona. Thanks for your leadership and your team and the artists that contributed to this.
Thank you, and we share your eagerness to turn this into some merch. I think it's got great possibilities for that. And incidentally, on the lettering, we actually have collaborated several times before with Maker's Edge. They are able to create giant stencils for each of the squares, so that will make the lettering, all we have to do is to send them the format. They've come back with an amazing, very affordable price on that because they really want to be part of making this happen. So that is going to solve the challenge of how we do the typeface for this.
Any other comments or questions? George, you got anything on this one? Thank you. Great. Fantastic. I did as a super clever design, and I hadn't thought about. Yeah, make a little game out of it. That's going to be pretty cool. So people, I know that every time I walk by or drive by the 7th, I always look on Austin. I always look down there to see what might be going on, and I'm happy to see it sort of refreshed. And we haven't activated it for a while, so it'll be cool to see how this kind of catches and what kind of traction it gets. I like the way you thought about the funding is all in place too, and it looks like it's going to be just a great addition to downtown there. Is the artist here today, Haley Cash, not?
She couldn't join us today, but I'm hoping very much she'll be. She has already participated in a workshop with the apprentices last weekend, and she will be on hand for things like the Community Paint Day and, of course, for the celebration at the end when it's created.
Great. And Darius, thank you so much for participating in this wonderful project. I see some other, Deidre Emerson is here. Who else? Africa, I see. Julie Cervantes, I see her back over there. But thanks.
And Amanda.
Amanda back there, thanks to Julie.
Yeah, Amanda, okay, yeah. So I think almost everybody's here. Appreciate everybody's efforts on making the teamwork, the dream work here. So looking forward to it.
I'll just say real quick, 7th Street, particularly to you and I, has a special place in our hearts.
Absolutely.
Maybe we look at getting a historic marker there at some point in the future.
I think it's probably in order.
Yeah.
The Men in Black episode was shot right in that very, maybe one of these spots could be the Men in Black.
Great filming.
Yeah. All right. And last thing, Fiona, as soon as you get federal dollars, just spend them right away.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, thanks, Fiona. Appreciate it. City Manager Ford, where do you want to go next? 287 or 288?
We are headed towards the landfill, I believe.
Let's go.
We're going to bring up Cody Patillo, Director of Public Works, as well as Amanda Dyer in her new role as Assistant Director of Public Works. They're going to present an update on the new landfill and transfer station that is getting close to completion. Excited to have Cody and Amanda tell the story here of what is a long journey, started several years ago, and very proud of the work that all the city staff involved, as well as our consulting teams, third-party teams that have been involved. It has been a long journey, but one that I think will very well position the city of Waco on solid waste management for the next 3 to 4 decades. So, Cody, turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, City Manager Ford, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to provide y'all an update on the solid waste facilities. Cody Patillo, Director of Public Works. Beside me, I have Amanda Dyer, Assistant Director of Public Works, that will be over solid waste. So just jumping right into it, we're going to go over the project history. We're going to talk about the progress of the new facilities and then the transition plan to get these new facilities operational. At any point you have any questions or comments, please feel free to just jump right on in. All right. So This project really started before 2018, but our initial permit application for the new landfill was August of 2018, and that process went until May of 2023. It took us 1,749 days to get through the application process. It was pretty challenging, a lot of stressful, sleepless nights. There's some points in there where weren't quite sure if we'd have enough airspace to get to the finish line at the existing landfill, but we've made it. We feel good about where we are and how we are wrapping these projects up. And during that application process, there's a lot of negotiation with our neighbors and working through settlements and coming to settlement agreements with a lot of our neighbors and building those relationships and getting off on a good foot and making sure we are fostering those and having positive relationships as we move forward into the operation. So going to design as we're finishing up the application process, and then we go into the construction process for 2400 in November of 2023, and then looking to wrap up construction of the new landfill around end of May, early June of this year. So about 18-month timeline to get through the construction process. As we were going through the permit application and design of the new landfill, we initiated a transfer station feasibility study. And through that feasibility study, we determined it would be advantageous for us to develop and operate a transfer station to support our solid waste operations. So that permit application was submitted towards the end of 2022, and it was a lot smoother, just quicker process overall than the new landfill, mainly because we already had a solid waste permit at this facility, so we were just doing a registration. If we were doing a new application, it would have taken relatively close to about the same time frame as the permit application for the new landfill. So the permit application, we pretty much started design right after we submitted the permit and then initiated construction in May, April timeframe of 2024 and have completed construction in February of 2025. So a little bit less than a year to construct that site completely. All right, I think this will start. Okay, so we're going to go to the progress of our new sites. This is updated drone footage from last week. A big shout out to our communication and marketing team for helping us get this last minute request through so we could get to the latest and greatest in front of the public. The big message here is the critical infrastructure is complete. We finished the entrance road, perimeter fencing, Sector 1, scales and scale house. We still have the maintenance building ongoing and the administrative offices as well as the collection station. Though we're looking to wrap those up towards the end of this month with substantial completion and then final completion early June. The big thing there is it's not part of the critical infrastructure to open the facility, so if we were in a bind and we were trying to open this like in the next month, it wouldn't be an issue. Moving on to the transfer station. Big thing here is it's all complete. We're ready to go. We've got to get through our inspections, and then whenever we start operating, we can move right on in. Finished up the facility. You saw the scales in the scale house, the collection station. We also had to widen FM 3400. We added a turn lane as part of a required part of a traffic study, and we also had some on-system sewer improvements to support this operation. I'll let this finish up. It's pretty cool to see how it's developed over the time.
Looks great.
All right, so remaining work. Mentioned the finishing up the maintenance building. This picture's a couple of weeks old, so the slabs are pouring. The administrative offices are actually out there. There's some modular facilities, and they're in place. Just need to do some connections. The big item here is the TCQ pre-opening inspections. We anticipate those taking place sometime between June and July. We've already started working with a consultant to work through different checklists to make sure we can have a seamless process as well as engage TCQ in conversation as well. So they're ready and prepared. All right, let's talk about the money a little bit. Construction cost, new landfill cost $20.8 million. Anticipated the actual cost of the construction. The estimated cost was $22.6. Not much has changed from our November update here. For the transfer station, our actual cost was $15.8 million, and the estimated cost was $15.5. So we went a little bit over on the transfer station, but between the two projects, we were within budget and on time, which is something you always want to hear when you're trying to deliver a project. Also included in this actual construction cost for the transfer station is that early finish incentive. You might remember when we went to bid this project, we were not feeling real warm and fuzzy about the airspace we had at the landfill and how these projects were developing. So we used this tool in our toolkit to try to incentivize the contractor to put as much resources they had available to speed this project up. There's a time and place for this type of tool, and this was a good opportunity for us to use it, and it really helped it encourage the contractor to finish as quickly as possible. And he did achieve 75% of that incentive.
I was going to say, I can't remember what the full number was, but I feel like the gap between, at least on the transfer station, the actual and the estimated, that would make up a decent chunk of that, right?
So the full incentive was $200,000.
Yeah.
And then it dropped $50,000 every 2 weeks after the initial date, and so they ended up hitting $150,000 incentive.
Great. So almost half of what the difference is there. Great.
All right, rate impact. So you might recall, I think in a budget retreat a couple of years ago, we laid out this plan to increase rates to support the development of these new facilities. We are in year 3 of that plan and still moving forward. It's $1.41 per year over a 5-year period. All right, so now I'm going to hand it over to Amanda to cover the transition plan.
So we are planning to open the 2 new facilities at the beginning of the fiscal year on October 1st. And then that will mean that there will be a 3 to 6 month dual operation. So there'll be an overlap of having the current landfill and the new landfill both open at the same time for about 3 to 6 months. And that means we'll be establishing a fluff layer at the new landfill, which is about a 5-foot layer of soft trash, which is usually, it'll be residential collections. And once that layer is established that is meant to protect the liner of the cell, we will work up the closure of the current landfill. And you can see here the overlap of operations that I just mentioned with the current landfill in the top bar, our new landfill in the second bar, and then both the new landfill and the transportation will both be opening there at the beginning of October. We also illustrate here the installation of the fluff layer, which will take between 3 and 6 months. So we anticipate that being finalized around between January and April, and at that point, we can close our current landfill.
All right, so wrapping it up with some before and after and then a summary. This, like I mentioned earlier, this was a challenging project, but a very rewarding project. It's both of these developments. There's going to be positive impact for our residents, our community for decades to come. Bradley mentioned this, but 30 years of useful life. You know, we've got this landfill with projected tonnage. That gives us 20 years before we have to worry about this airspace problem again. So we made some strategic investment, and really the transfer station here gives us a lot of flexibility here in the future. So whenever we come up to this situation again where we're running out of airspace, we can have a more thoughtful conversation of, do we expand the landfill, do we build a new landfill, or do we just haul our waste to somebody else that has a landfill? Because it gives us that operational flexibility so it won't impact the level of service that we have. Another reminder here is we are privatizing the operations here at the transfer station. We have a contract with Stella Environmental to do the waste hauling, so get the waste from the transfer station to the new landfill, as well as load those trucks inside the actual facility, and we will have full-time staff that operate the scale house and the scales. So in summary here, it's kind of a victory lap. I feel like there's been a lot of hard work that's went into this, a lot of credit to really give out. Council, you know, made some strategic decisions along the way to support this. Former council starting this process, Mayor Holmes, former Mayor Meek, Mayor Deaver, you know, past leadership, Wiley Stem, and current city leadership has really led us in a direction that we're making positive impact and going to have generational, transformational project here. So big project, on time, under budget. You always want to hear those words, but really what's important to us is along that way we made a lot of relationships. We made a lot of commitments to our neighbors and the community out there, and it's important to us that we live up to those commitments throughout this process, not only during the construction, but also operational. There's a lot of long-term relationships that we're going to have to make sure, like I mentioned earlier, foster and make sure they stay in a positive manner. So our motto here is promises made, promises kept, and we're going to continue to do that. So just outlining that this is how the city of Waco operates and how we're going to continue to operate as we see these type of projects develop in the future. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments you may have.
Any comments, guys?
Question, Cody, is that a new suit?
It is.
Yeah, it looks great.
Don't do my man like that. Don't do my man like
It's a compliment. He looks great. I saw it when he was walking down. Yeah. I just feel like I say this every time. I appreciate you and your team's work to get this done, as you said several times to this point, on time and on budget. Something that you don't see or hear a lot when it comes to municipal projects like this. So I know it is not an easy thing. I know that, you touched on at the beginning with the permitting process, the sleepless nights and kind of the difficulty in getting through that initial hurdle, but can't say enough. So grateful for that, and especially in a time that, we're looking for every dollar we can find to see, what was like a cumulative difference between the two transportation and total construction cost of a couple $1 million from estimates to actuals in the positive. I thank you. I'm sure our taxpayers thank you. And looking forward to getting this thing up and running. Quick question. Do you know what the operational life of our current landfill is? Obviously, I know we've got a chart of when we're going to close it, but as you were saying that, I thought, I wonder how much more time we're saving by opening the new one versus using our current landfill. Do you know what the estimated operational life of our current landfill would be?
The one we're moving on to?
The one that we're moving from.
Well, basically, once we finish up the fluff layer, we're going to leave the site there.
I just mean, like, how long could we use it if we needed to?
I'd have to get back with
No,
you.
that's fine. I was just curious. I feel like we're doing everything really quickly, and again, to commend you and your team on this. I'm very glad that we're not going to have to worry about seeing the end of that life before we close it and move on.
Yeah, I think off the top of my head, I think it's up to 6 months of airspace that we'd end up leaving, maybe a little bit more. It just all depends on the incoming tonnage.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks.
So your date on closing it was because you'll have the fluff layer done on the new one?
Yeah.
It's not a hard stop, it's a
Yes,
chosen
yes.
stop.
Yep, it's whenever we get to where we're comfortable with the fluff layer, so we can divert all the waste, so your construction and demo, your harder material that could compromise the liner. Whenever we have an area that's large enough to we can take all that, we'll just divert it all there, and we'll close down the existing facility. So we're not running two operations indefinitely.
And with that being said, citizens of Waco, from October 2025 to April of 2026, feel free to discard all of your pillows and blankets to help with that fluff layer.
Take it.
Technical term.
Thank you for
Fluff.
this. I'm sorry, Mayor.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just talking about Darius's fluffy.
Do we want to talk about Darius's fluffy?
That's a good point.
Off the rails, people.
Cody, never mind us up here. I want to thank you for this. I know, I'm glad that you're finishing it up when I'm coming off. I can say, hey, yeah, I was part of that. I know when we first started this, the $1.43 or 49 additional to our residents, I think I wasn't for that. Any additional to our residents, I've always said no, but it's going to, the money is going to a good place, and our citizens are really going to get their $1.49's worth of, and so I take back I didn't want to put the $1.49 in. So thank you for this. It looks great. The pictures look great. And I think we've improved a part of the area, Waco area, to make it look really nice. And I'm proud that you all made it as nice as you did. So thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Just appreciate everything that you've done in this process. I know it has not been easy, and the challenges that naturally come with this kind of work, and the ones that are just added bonuses, you've handled with a level of grace that it takes for this work. I appreciate the ingenuity of you and your department in multiple solutions to this problem, because it was a large one that we were facing, from cost to space to area to land, and how we came to the solution with the transfer station and all of those things. It took a lot, and I know myself and our council members are appreciative of the dedication that you and your team have put towards this.
Thank you, Councilmember Bearfield.
I'll add to the chorus. Cody, you and your team, great job. Everything that's been said. I also wanted to point out, I know Paul Kane is kind of hiding in the back, but I know that he's been with this and shepherded this project for a long time, and negotiated a lot of the deals that helped pave the way, smoothed out some of the rough places, built trust and in the community there. And I think, as Cody mentioned, you know, promises kept, promises made. I think seeing the city of Waco being an open and honest broker, and being good on our word and good, you know, following up on our contracts and our promises. I think that's very important. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, Cody. Great job taking over this really epic project and bringing it home. So thank you.
Good perspective, Councilmember Bordery. Yeah, great presentation, Amanda and Cody. Appreciate it. And Councilmember Rodriguez, you hit on it. It was like 9 years ago when I first got on council, is when we started talking about this. And I think the three of us were kind of there as we formulated initial thoughts on location. And had I known back then that we only had like a 4-month gap or 5-month gap on finishing one and closing the other one, it's like I would have been freaked out a little bit more. I thought we had a long head start on it, so I appreciate you, as you said, keeping this thing on time and under budget, because we had to have that, and you did a great job on that, Cody. Again, I think when you look at the solid waste service and that team there that you put together and you have, you'll see great performance, very efficient performance, and this part of my presentation is I think the number of complaints we get on picking up people's waste is at an all-time low, because you guys do a great job and are responsive when we do hear from our citizens and our residents. So I appreciate that. And maybe we'll have another presentation on this, and Darius was hitting on a little bit, or Councilmember Ewing, but the reclamation process of the old landfill, 948A, how that'll take several years, right?
Yeah, so that's probably going to be in like a 4-phase approach, and it'll be costly, but it's planned for as well. So it will take about 8 years for us to completely close and cap the facility.
Sounds good. Thanks, Cody and Amanda. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
City Manager Ford, I think our last item, or close to the last item. Work session 2025-288.
That's our last one. I think Ashley Nystrom thought she was going to run out of time on this one, or that we were going to run out of time and she wasn't going to have to present, but
Got to make room for Ashley.
She is going to talk to us today as a follow-up to a prior work session on the Texas legislative session. It continues to move forward. And the 89th session has not been an easy one for local government. And she's going to provide us some updates on bills affecting cities in particular, and appreciate her efforts. She spent a little bit of time at the Capitol this week and in prior weeks, and I definitely appreciate Ashley's guidance on legislative matters for us. So.
Here we are. So I'm going to run us through a quick update. It is a similar format to what we looked at the beginning of April. What I have done is I've kept all of the bills on this update that have seen some progress. So you may notice there's some bills that you were paying attention to last time that have dropped off, but we're going to run through. I won't hit every single one, just in the interest of time, and because some bills still remain in play, but they haven't made it very far. So I'm really going to highlight today some of the major bills for cities, as well as bills that have made it pretty far through the process. So where we're at in the session, we are just under a week away from that last day for House committees to report out House bills and resolutions. So after May 12th, you will see the House committees really only focusing on the Senate bills that have made it over to the House. And then a little under 2 weeks after that, they will have their last day for House committees to report out Senate bills and resolutions. The Senate side of things, they're a little more flexible on their timing. So a lot of the House deadlines drive these final days. And then we are all of it wrapping up towards Monday, June 2nd, the last day of the legislature. So we will, over the next few weeks, see bills just continue to drop off as we finalize. But again, another record year for bill filing, close to over 9,000 bills, 10,000 bills and resolutions in between the House and the Senate, and tracking a lot of those for city impacts. So looking at our local bills, we were tracking a few for Waco. All good bills for Waco. We didn't end up having a session quite like last session where we were on the defense for local issues. House Bill 2626 and Senate Bill 1194 is that Central Texas Water Alliance that McLennan County is a founding member of. That has passed both the Senate and the House now, so it is awaiting governor action to finalize that bill. House Bill 3693 is carried by Representative Orr. That would add us to the list of eligible entities for project financing zones. That is in the House Ways and Means Committee, has not yet received a hearing, so likely running out of time, but we'll keep an eye on it over the next week if we need to get down there and support it. And then House Bill 3830 is the bill that Bradley mentioned. We were both down in Austin yesterday supporting Representative Curry on this bill. He laid out, he did an excellent job laying out kind of the purpose of the bill, why it's beneficial to the Waco region, really, for our residents as well as our business and tourism industries that all rely on not only water supply, but a high-quality water supply. We were grateful to also have the Texas Farm Bureau and the Texas Dairymen's Association there in support of the bill as well. And so just really a good joint effort on some mutually beneficial tools for improving the quality of water in the North Bosque River watershed. Moving on to municipal finance, this, as we've said in previous updates, is a pretty contentious session for cities. A lot of focus, particularly on municipal finance, and there are several bills moving in this area. House Bill 9 and House Joint Resolution, which is its enabling legislation, they are going to pass, or it's looking very likely that they will pass a business personal property tax exemption. As originally filed, the Senate was proposing a $25,000 exemption, and the House came in with $250,000, and they've met about in the middle at $125,000. So we are looking at that. We are estimating about a $1.7 million impact to City of Waco revenues from that exemption coming down from the state. So we'll be looking for that to move out of the Senate here in the next few weeks. It has passed the House. And then House Bill 19.
Ashley,
go ahead.
So with that, it passed the House. Will the Senate be able to change that number?
So the 125 is the Senate's changed number.
Okay, because
So they
that's
could,
what they agreed upon.
yeah, so
in
it
committee?
passed, so the committee substitute was heard yesterday in
Yeah.
the Senate Local Government Committee, and that's where they
That's what
proposed the
they got to.
125.
Okay.
So I don't anticipate it would change further unless it changes on the floor of the Senate.
And what do we think that a single year budgetary impact of that would be for our revenue?
It was 1.7 million.
It's a little over a penny on the tax rate. Yeah.
House Bill 19 is the big CO bill for this year. It is still pending in the Ways and Means Committee, so they have heard it on April 21st, and they took testimony. It has not yet moved out of the committee, so they've got about a week left to move that bill out of the committee if it's going to stay active. But that is the one that had the major restrictions on types of projects that could be funded by COs, as well as a 20% debt cap, and then other election requirements for COs and bond elections.
And we don't know if that is going to get out of committee, or we expect it to?
It's hard to say. It's the chair of the committee is the bill author, so I'm sure they're working hard to get it out of committee. but it has been in the committee for quite a while, so likely a little opposition is keeping it kind of where it's at.
They have pushback not only from cities and communities, but for bond council too. And, you know, they're pushing really hard. Because it doesn't make sense.
Senate Bill 533, I've got that on there. This is the bill that would move bond elections to November. That one has passed the Senate. It is still in a House committee, has not yet been heard in a House committee. So kind of remains to be seen. That one would have to make it out of that committee by the May 24th deadline. And then Senate Bill, I'm not gonna hit every single one, so if y'all wanna go into more details on one that I don't mention, just let me know. But the last one on this slide I'm gonna cover is Senate Bill 2858, which is an expansion of super preemption to add in the elections and the penal code. So if you'll remember from the last session, they passed the super preemption bill that basically says municipalities cannot regulate in certain divisions of the code that the state already has regulations. So they're adding those two codes to this, and then adding some Attorney General action options where the Attorney General could investigate cities for presumed violations of these preemptions. And one of the punitive actions under that Attorney General action would be the ability to withhold sales tax revenue from a city while the Attorney General is investigating those presumed violations. So that bill has passed the Senate as of last week on April 30th. And it has been referred to a House committee, has not yet received a hearing in the House. So watching that one as well to see how it moves forward. Under land use and zoning, I'll cover a few of these. Senate Bill 15 has passed the Senate. This is a minimum lot size cap. It is bracketed to cities that are over 90,000 that are located or partially located within counties over 300,000. So we don't quite fit that description, but we're close. So one that we're watching, it has passed the Senate as well as passed the committee in the House. So it is waiting on scheduling through calendars.
And sorry, what will it do?
It would put a cap, basically restrict regulations that cities are able to set for minimum lot sizes. So this is one of the state's initiatives on addressing housing shortages, letting people develop on much smaller lots than many cities allow. Senate Bill 840 and House Bill 3404 is the bill that allows mixed-use and multifamily residential developments in other types of zoning that currently maybe wouldn't support those, including office, commercial, retail, and warehouse zoning. This is another bill that is bracketed to cities that we don't quite fit, but we're somewhat close. This one's for cities with a population over 60,000, and then a county population over 420,000. So we're not quite there yet. But this one, again, has seen some movement. It has passed the Senate and just recently passed in the House committee, so likely going to the House floor as well. And then the last one on this slide is House Bill 24, Senate Bill 844, looking at protest threshold changes for zoning changes and changing the level of affirmative votes of a governing body when a protest is made. And so this one has passed the Senate. The House version is currently on the floor for a vote, for its final vote this afternoon. So likely that this one will move forward as well. Under planning and permitting, again, not going to hit every single one. House Bill 2225 and Senate Bill 1883 has passed the Senate on the Senate side, the Senate bill, and then the House committee, or the House side, the House bill is on the House floor for a vote in the next week. So it's already made it through the committee and calendars. They're waiting to see that. And that changes for how cities are able to implement impact fees. House Bill 2559 and Senate Bill 1882 are looking at limitations and prohibitions on cities enacting development moratoriums. The House bill has already passed the House and is in the Senate Local Government Committee. And then the Senate version has passed the Senate Local Government Committee. So what we'll likely see is those bills get joined up as their companion bills, but that one is moving. And then House Bill 23 and Senate Bill 2354, as well as that last bill down there, allow third-party development reviews by right. So currently cities can opt in and allow third-party reviews, but this would make it mandatory that the cities have to receive those third-party reviews It does, they did add some language that cities were favorable for, where limiting the liability on a city side when third-party review is utilized. But under House Bill 23, that version has passed the House, and then the Senate Bill 1450, that version has passed the Senate. So we will likely see some version of these bills make it through.
For 2225, should that pass, what are the changes for us specifically?
It's like
Regarding
is it a 5-year waiting period before any adjustments, I think? I don't know if that was 2022, 21.
So you would need a 3/4 vote for passing or for approving the imposition of an impact fee. You would be prohibited from increasing that fee for 5 years. There's,
What about current fees that are in place? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Like, are those, if they're already on the books and the
Their
rate is
legacy
on the
then,
book? Yeah.
I assume.
I'm not quite sure how it impacts existing fees, because I do think it's developed more towards new fees, but I can look further into that bill to see how that applies.
Thank you.
Yep. Disannexation was a hot topic this session as well. Kind of some further, they've made large strides in annexation issues in previous sessions and further refining that in this session. House Bill 3897 and Senate Bill 2695 kind of govern how emergency services districts and city territories overlap. That bill has made it through committees in both the House and the Senate, has not yet received a floor vote, but likely to. House Bill, go ahead.
Ashley, on that disannexation, the 950 and I guess 2494 too, HB. As I read that, does it go down, it says area, but the way I read it, it could almost be an individual homeowner.
Yes, so
seems like
as
a
long as, it
disaster.
depends on the area. The language isn't the best as far as clearing that issue up, but it can be down to, I believe, to an individual property, or if more people want to join together, you can have a petition of property owners who are eligible voters to disannex if full city services are not provided to those properties. House Bill 950 is past the House committee, has not yet made it to the floor. House Bill 2494 will likely go up for consideration tomorrow on the House floor for a vote. And then the Senate Bill 1844, actually just passed today. It passed this morning from the Senate. So likely that we will see some version of that move forward. One of the big topics of discussion for this was the provision of water and wastewater services was a hot topic for many cities, including Waco, because we do have areas of the city that we do not yet have infrastructure. They're not yet developed, but should development be needed, there would need to be planning. And so that's a big area of concern, not just for Waco, but for many cities. Under public safety, the only one of these bills on the screen I'm going to highlight is House Bill 33, which is the Uvalde Strong bill, and planning and response oversights for active shooter situations. The Senate bill hasn't seen any movement, but the House bill has passed the House and is in a Senate committee right now, so likely that will be the version that goes forward. I did mention in the April update the conversation around local governments participating with ICE. And so the versions of the bills that required city participation have not moved forward. Senate Bill 8 is a bill that applies to sheriff's departments and how they participate with ICE. And that bill has passed the Senate, so likely the version that will make it forward. That bill currently does not contain any language that requires cities to participate.
That was passed in a past legislative session, though, correct?
Yes, this one allows for, I think this changes some of the language to make it mandatory for them to participate, but also provides some grant funding specifically for sheriff's departments.
Thank you.
There are several preemption bills this session as well that are still in play. The one I'd like to highlight on this screen here is House Bill 2156 and Senate Bill 1008. The Senate bill did pass the House today, so that bill is fully passed. And so what that one does, It's a pretty thorough bill, but basically some preemption of local food service regulations and permitting, including food trucks and other areas of food service. And permits are still allowed, but they restrict which types of permits, as well as what types of fees can be charged. And then an interesting aspect of that was preempting cities from being able to regulate sound regulations from food service establishments. So something we would likely want to look into as well. They set pretty clear hours on when, basically the state mandating what those decibel requirements can be, as well as the hours of the decibel requirements, and would preempt some of our regulations, I expect. And then Senate Bill 19 is the main community advocacy lobbying bill that is still moving forward. Several of the other bills have dropped off, but Senate Bill 19 would not allow for public funds to be expended by a municipality on a lobbyist or on a state nonprofit association. So this was the strictest version of the anti-lobby bill, and it has passed the Senate, has not yet had a hearing in the House yet, though. On elections, a couple of these I'll highlight. Senate Bill 1209 is the bill that would eliminate the May uniform election date and move all local elections to the November date. That one has passed the Senate at the beginning of April, is currently in a House committee, has not yet had a hearing. So a couple weeks left for that one to receive a hearing. We do see this one frequently, or we have seen it in past sessions, so yet to be seen if it moves forward, but would move all elections to November. And then Senate Bill 506 and House Bill 1783 has passed the Senate, or the Senate bill has passed the Senate and is in a House committee, along with the House bill is in the House committee, so I anticipate that they'll combine those two bills. But what that one does is require that a ballot proposition submits a question with such definiteness and certainty that voters are not misled. And so that's the requirement there. They would enable the Secretary of State, or they would require the Secretary of State to review any challenges under that legislation, and then put the onus on the city when those requirements are not met.
Go ahead.
That's about all I can say about that bill. There are quite a few more requirements there, but again, that one is moving, has passed the Senate. A couple weeks left now to make it out of House committee. Senate Bill 7 was the big water bill this session out of the Senate, has passed the Senate in early April. It has been heard in the House Committee on Natural Resources. They just need to vote it out now. So this was a big beneficial bill for water infrastructure and funding within the state, and glad to see that one moving forward. Senate Bill 924, the last one on this page, has passed the Senate and is currently pending in the House Subcommittee on Telecommunications and Broadband, so it still has a few more steps. But if you'll remember, this bill would exclude streaming companies from having to pay the 5% franchise fee for using the public right-of-way. And so that is an estimated $1.3 million of annual revenue that we currently collect on telecom right-of-way fees. So would anticipate an impact there if that bill does pass.
So we're up to what, about $5 million loss this Senate? I mean, this session?
We're getting there. Getting there. Open government, House Bill 1080 is a bill that we went down and supported, carried by Representative Curry. We supported that one early on in the session. It has passed out of its House committee, hasn't yet had a hearing on the House floor, but that one would allow for a city, when they're able to prove their viewership on public notice requirements, to post in alternative media if the traditional mechanisms are not as effective. And then House Bill 1522, not a huge impact to us, but it does change posting timelines from 72 hours to actually 3 business days, as well as requiring for the posting for a city budget, for that budget to be included in the physical posting, which was interesting. I'm just imagining the full budget tacked up there to the board. They do have some other exceptions for where you can publish that budget, but that one has passed the House and is currently in the Senate committee waiting for a hearing. House Bill 111, we discussed this one in the April update as well. That one was placed on the general state calendar today, so we'll go through some votes in the next week or so. This is the one that would require any entity who receives more than 50% of their revenue from public funds to now be subject to the Public Information Act. So likely would impact major statewide organizations, possibly like TML, but would impact some of our outside agencies as well, something that we would want to look into for local impacts here. And then Senate Bill 986 is passed the Senate Committee on Business and Commerce and was placed on the Senate intent calendar today. So we'll see them likely voting on that one here in the near future as well. And what this one is allowing the Office of the Attorney General to make a $1,000 charge to a government entity for any request for Office of Attorney General opinion that the Attorney General believes was made in a bad faith effort. And then they had some other fines per day when that bad faith effort was made. So that one is moving, would still have to make it through the House assuming it makes it out of the Senate. And then, almost my last slide. There's more. I'm sorry. I said 10 minutes. Here we go. I will fly through this one. House Bill 134 would be a good one for Waco. It has made it to calendars. That one is allowing for destination sourcing on local sales tax for online purchases. House Bill 5267 is not a great one. This is a limit on annual expenditures, and they have a calculation there. House Bill 4097 and Senate Bill 1851 have to do with municipal audit requirements. And then Senate Bill 878 is the big Chapter 380 bill carried by Senator Birdwell. It has passed the Senate and is currently still in the House Ways and Means Committee, and that would impose quite a few restrictions on Chapter 380 agreements. And that's the last one. Is that today?
Always knows where the camera is.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's me. There's a puppet on the other side of that thing.
It's a good thing Blue finished early. I didn't quite make it in the 10 minutes I promised Deidre.
I'm almost at, you did a great job in summarizing this, and you almost get a sense of hostility from Austin, but I don't know. We'll see.
There's still a few weeks left.
I don't know if it's directed at you specifically, Josh.
No, not personally.
Yeah, Ashley, I appreciate you keeping track of all these, because, and I also appreciate you and Bradley going down to Austin and testifying on 3830 yesterday, right? You must have got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be there by 8. Yeah, this is first time I've been mayor, kind of going through it and knowing that you have to kind of be very conscious of how these will affect, particularly our budget, because as Councilmember Bearfield said, just between HB 19, SB 924, HB 2479, it's $3+ million. And we've already talked about a little bit ago about how we were trying to be as efficient as possible. And this is reducing the revenue side, and we're trying to reduce the expense side. Anyway, the other thing that we're doing, Andrea or Councilmember Bearfield and a team of the city management on Friday afternoons at 4 o'clock, which is the worst possible time to have a meeting, have agreed for the last month or so to have this late in the week meeting. And I appreciate city staff for keeping us posted and keeping us up to date on this, because we know that small moves down there in Austin make big differences in how we run the city, particularly HB 19. I did my HB 19 speech at the last meeting. I won't do it again, but we really need to be careful on that. And I do appreciate also Representative Curry for regularly reaching out and being available to talk to us. So again, we'll find out how this stuff ends up. And part of our budget process is going to depend on, and we've talked about this, depend on what happens down in Austin. So that's one reason we haven't been able to finalize parts of this thing. Anyway, Ashley, I appreciate it. Thanks. I think, are we into the public hearing items? Clint's not going to do his public hearing thing? We don't have it on the agenda.
In the 6 o'clock session, I believe.
We're just going to do it tonight. All right, is that it, City Manager Ford, for the work session?
Well, one commentary I'll add to you said something very wise about how the budget process is kind of tied up with some of the state actions. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to say you've got the $3 or $4 million we're talking about from the state effect. we have at least that much from the federal effects going on right now. So in this moment when we're squeezing tight, it's not just locally, it's also state and federal. So I appreciate the council's wisdom and guidance as you help me plan for the next budget year. It's not an easy one.
Okay, are there any, we're now to the point here where we are going to request future agenda items? Any future agenda items? No. I do want to see the American Sign Language people down there. How do you say pain in the butt in American Sign Language down there? You say, all right. Okay. Not, all right. Not, there we go. I think that was what was meant earlier in the meeting. We'll now recess the work session and reconvene regular session for executive session as read into the record by the interim Assistant City Secretary Spikes at 5:16 p.m.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council will go into executive session in accordance with the following provisions. 1, Real Properties, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072. 2, Economic Development, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.087, and attorney briefings, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071. A, complaint of the City of Waco against Prairie Hill Water Supply Corporation, PUC docket number 56829, SOAH, docket number 473-25-08499 before the State of Office of Administrative Hearings, and B, phosphorus reducing mechanisms in watersheds into Lake Waco and possible council action to grant authority to retain outside counsel and experts in this matter. We are now in executive session.